21st meeting of the Planning Commission to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Could we have a roll call, please? Ann Herbert. Kathleen Hill. Here. William Hutt.
Here.
Michael Tinker.
Here.
Tim White.
Here.
Thomas White.
Here.
6 present, we have a quorum. Next item is the approval of the minutes for September 16th, 2013.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is passed. Any old business, Mr. Poland?
No old business.
Okay, going directly to new business. For the approval of the Taco Bell Indianapolis Boulevard addition to the City of Hammond, a one-lot subdivision at 6527 Indianapolis Boulevard in a C4 General Commercial District. Have all the requirements been met? Okay, all right, so, would the petitioner like to come forward, state name, address?
My name is Balchandra Sata. My address is 29375 West 10 Mile Road, Farmington Hills, Michigan. I'm president of Lake Real Estate Management Company.
All right. And what are you planning on doing with the Taco Bell?
Okay, that Taco Bell building is about 35-year-old. We want to demolish that building and put a brand new Taco Bell there. It's going to be of the latest design that Taco Bell has come up. We had done last year the one on Calumet Avenue, and this design is even more revised than that. So it's going to be latest and greatest Taco Bell.
Mr. Boland?
I just wanted to make sure that we recognize we're discussing the subdivision of the property and not specifically the construction of a new building.
Yes, sir. We are requesting the subdivision single plot approval so that if we can move forward with the plan to apply for the final approval of the design. We're still waiting on Homeland Security to give us the approval, which we expect very soon because it's already way late. We have requested them over 2.5 months ago. I guess with the federal government shutdown, it might have got put behind for a while, but we should be getting that approval soon. As soon as we get that approval, we'll also apply for a demolition permit so we can begin the construction this year. Our goal is to at least demolish the building by middle of November or sooner. And if we can put the new parking lot this year, then and a foundation, then we can build the building in January, February, and reopen for business in March or April.
So presently, we're dealing with the same piece of land,
Yes,
and it is basically right now in an acreage format, and it needs to go into a standard lot name format in order for permits to be issued. Is that right, Mr. Poland?
Yes, that would be correct.
yes. And we agreed to that, and we got basic design and everything to Mr. Poland. The different departments are looking at it. Once we get the final approval, we'll get the Mylar drawings done, and I will notarize, sign, and bring it into Ms. Shannon Morris for everyone else's signature.
Any Anything else at this time?
I'm sorry?
Anything else you'd like to add at this time?
Well, we want to move forward with this project as soon as possible because my employees, for 5, 6 months, they can't stay without job. They got to have that income coming, and we do our best to use them in our other Taco Bells, disperse them to different Taco Bells temporarily, but they like to work out of their own stores close to their home. So anything that we can get help to expedite, we highly appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Any
Thank you.
questions?
No. I do.
Okay.
Thank you. Couple of questions. Mr. Poland, are we in compliance with the landscaping requirements for parking lots?
Again, I'm going to have to say that the answer is yes, but that isn't, we're not discussing the site plan, this is the subdivision, and that's a site plan question.
Basically, right now, they're asking as far as for, to make it in a one-lot subdivision. Basically, it is right now in a acreage format, and it needs to be placed in a standard lot name format. So what we are dealing with now is a petition to make it a one-lot subdivision.
There are some issues regarding the subdivision, I think, that need to be brought out for the record. The Petros's restaurant is built on or immediately adjacent to the north property line of the property that's owned by the petitioner. And that situation has existed apparently for quite some years, back when I guess Wendy's had the property and that. So there is an existing easement, emergency access easement, that was put in place to allow for the building line to be encroached onto the property line, as well as space for the Petros's owners to walk onto or come onto the Taco Bell parcel in order to maintain that south wall of the restaurant. The physical boundary of that easement in the written document does not exactly cover the east-west dimension of the building, and that was one of the things that I have not had a chance to verify in the current version of the subdivision plat before you, as to whether or not that was adequately resolved. And then the actual situation. A second thing is that there is a sanitary line that runs north-south through the parking lot. And before I was on vacation, there was a doubt as to whether the document numbers were referenced properly. But I know the surveyor has physically placed the lines for the easement. On the version that I saw previously, he did not put the lines, he just made a notational reference. So that is a technical thing that I just need to verify the accuracy of. There's a couple of other notational things that I see that need to be addressed and corrected. But those are some of those things that are still out there. We also, because of some of the timing issues that we had, we are just now getting our responses from the utility or the review agencies. I think there's like 1 or 2 that are still pending. I did not anticipate this as a problem, and it's playing out that the responses that we did get, there's no objections from any of the review agencies. So from the standpoint of where we're at on this project, I think there still are some technical things that need to be addressed. And I kind of sort of crossed into a staff report rather than just answering questions, but if I would ask before I make kind of like the final recommendation that we go through the steps of the public hearing.
I had a couple meetings with Mr. Revelati, who owns the Petros restaurant. Met him in person a couple times, and he said we never had a problem all these years, and if anything, he's using my property, and I've never had any issue with that. And we're keeping that access open for him. If anything, we're going to improve it. Only thing we're taking down that the metal railing, which is all beaten up, looks bad, and we're going to put the cement blocks like the 3 feet wide, 6-inch high, what is required by the city ordinance, and just make it look better. He will have full access to maintain his rooftop unit or the equipment he has on the side of the building, and he will continue using the parking that is on my property, but he has been using, and I got no plan to use it, so, and I don't need to use it, so I'm okay.
Yeah, and that's part of the encroachment issue is something, there is on the south side of the restaurant, there is a fire exit that enters onto the Taco Bell parcel. And that is an issue of making sure that someone is able to, it becomes a site plan issue, but it is an issue where making sure that someone who wants to exit that building can properly exit and does not have any impediments to get out of the building. So from a site plan standpoint, they have tried to address that by making it a person being able to get to the driveway in essence. Not just the access to the rooftop units, Petros has also placed the ground units are on the Taco Bell parcel. And there may be, I think there's a question for maybe your attorney, Mr. Sada, is to make sure that the current easement language that addresses the right of the Petros to repair your building, repair their building, does it give them the right to have that air conditioning unit condenser on your property?
But he has it for many years, so, and I guess I was told that he had it for even when Wendy was there. So I didn't want to argue with him. I got no reason to use that, and it doesn't hurt me by any means.
Okay.
So I said I'm fine with that, and I'm willing to put that in writing. I even sent him a letter stating that, and I think I did send a copy of the letter to you.
Yeah. Did he ever write you a response?
No.
Okay. That's kind of the part that concerns me, is even though you've tried to communicate with him on that and do the right thing, he's not responding appropriately, and that's the part that I think becomes a private matter between you and him. The other thing that we talked about is that Petros has parking spaces that encroach onto Taco Bell property. And I wrote an email to Mr. Sada that should Petros want to repave that parking lot in the future, the city would not be able to issue a permit to allow him to repave the portion on the Taco Bell parcel unless Mr. Sada says that he can. So it comes down to that Petros should, over time, remove their encroachment, because they don't, right now, they have no document that allows them to put that parking on Taco Bell property. I made reference to that in the staff report. It's like an easement by prescription. But it is something that could be, over time, could be removed, be forced
Okay.
to be removed.
I talked to my attorney on that and my architect also on this, and he mentioned that perhaps we can just give that parcel to him, just sell him for $1 or something, so that it will be his from there on, and then there will never be an issue of if he wants to resurface that area or anything, city will not have a problem.
Right, but if you do that, then you're gonna force a re-subdivision again.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, you could just split
I
off
cannot
that
do that.
piece.
Okay.
We'd be starting all over again.
Okay, never mind, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm glad I brought it up, so at least I know upfront now.
yeah, and then because of how we've done your landscaping, you will affect your site plan. So I think while it may be, you're trying to do something nice for him, I think it's gonna cause you more difficulty in the long run.
Okay. I'm glad that I found that out today. Thank you.
Mr. Poland, if this is approved and that as far as for the subdivision, would he have to come back with as far as site plans or anything like that, or?
No.
Okay, this is just basically just a subdivision and that is it, and then
He'll
that
continue.
goes, he can do the permit, get everything.
Well, I mean, obviously, the plat has to be approved through all the processes and recorded before the city can issue a permit. And he's still in that permit review process. He indicated he's still trying to hear from Homeland Security because of the state building permit, and also the local permits. We're still reviewing those. We're pretty close, and should all that happen, that should happen relatively quickly. So I think as he's working on that side and we're working out the technical aspects of the plat, we should be ready to go, issue permits soon. I don't want to tell you exactly when, but it should be relatively soon.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Poland, just out of courtesy, I suggest that you check your accessible route to make sure you're in compliance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Out of the restaurant, out of the Petros's or out of Taco Bell?
No, Taco Bell, from the parking lot to the door.
We're moving the building about 35 feet back, so that's going to help to have a better access for the handicap also. It'll be almost same as Calumet Avenue. The handicap will be right up front, close to the door. And we'll have enough parking because we do have some area in the back that we have not been used over the years. So we're going to go and use that.
Specifically, I'm more concerned about where your ADA ramp is behind the precast concrete parking bumper, so there's no accessibility to it. I'm just suggesting you check that routing
Okay,
out of courtesy, that's all.
okay.
Any other questions? Anyone in the public like to speak? Hearing none, we will close this period of public comments. Roland, do you have any other comments? Or staff report?
Yeah, I kind of, just for the record, I did kind of discuss most of the issues that are in my staff report earlier. The responses from the review agencies are still pending. We're still waiting for, I think, one more. There's some technical corrections that still need to be made on the plat drawing. Otherwise, the subdivision plat is in compliance with the subdivision control ordinance. Staff recommends that the Plan Commission grant preliminary and final approval subject to the staff resolving these outstanding issues with the applicant. And then we can, once completed, the Mylars will be prepared for signatures. And if the Plan Commission agrees with the staff recommendation, the staff recommends that this report is adopted as findings of fact.
Any additional questions? to accept the staff report into the record?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second.
You said into the record or it's finding the fact?
I'm sorry, it's finding the fact. It's finding the fact. We have that motion?
Yes.
And we have a
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Can we move right on to accepting the subdivision? Subject to. Do we have that motion?
I'll make the motion. Second.
Motion and second. Roll call vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Sada know what to do now? Does he know?
Mr. Sada, I mean, basically, we've completed the process for tonight. I will be in contact with you in the next couple days or your surveyor directly, to kind of work out some of the technical things. And then we'll talk to you about the fee. And then hopefully in a couple of days, you can prepare the Mylars, and then we'll go through the signature process.
Okay.
So we should be able to take care of it within 10 days or less.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate your help. Thank you.
All right. Next item is CP-13-11, petition of the Hammond Plan Commission for a text amendment to zoning ordinance 8514 as amended regarding pawn shops and alternative financial businesses. Mr. Poland, I assume you're doing this?
Yes, I am, and I'm going to go to the front microphone.
You want to state your name and address and sign in, please?
Yes, Brian Poland, Director of City Planning, and we'll just say 649 Conkey Street. I have prepared an ordinance text amendment to the zoning ordinance regarding the subject matter of pawn shops and alternative financial businesses. A lot of what I think the research was bringing to my attention is that different communities have done research as to what the effect that that pawn shops have on property values, as well as potential issues of criminal activities, and overall giving a negative impression of a particular community. And we have in a situation, at least that the concern that has been raised in Hammond, that we've had a couple of we have a concentration of pawn shops that have located recently on Indianapolis Boulevard in the 6800 block. And, when you have a concentration of any of these uses that are sometimes problematic, you want to make sure, or you want to try and do something to lessen what those negative effects or the secondary effects of that business is. So we went about trying to find examples from other communities as to see how they would handle these types of uses. There is a whole series of language that would be more applicable for the business licensing component of the city. So I really was very particular in sticking to just the zoning provisions, which are really, obviously setback or separation distances and any parking issues and those types of related things. In talking with the building commissioner, I've shared with him all of my source material for the business license component, And I think that's a matter for them to pursue if they think that's something that the city would want to do. I started out focusing on pawn shops, and then it became a lot of these related uses. And so that's where the term alternative financial business comes in. It's a generic term that covers a couple of different things, and that is one of the definitions that is referenced or that is indicated in the ordinance. An alternative financial business would be like a payday advance or loan business, a car title loan business, or a cash for gold business. And then going into more specific definitions as to what each of those are. It was a bit of a trick to really find the fine line between a lot of these definitions, because if you look at it as the transaction in this generic sense is that someone is seeking money in exchange for collateral. And that's what a bank does. You know, when you get a mortgage for your house, a loan for your car, you're giving collateral for ultimate payback. What these alternative financial businesses are using, either now a car title that you supposedly own 100% and clear, or you're writing a check that hopefully you'll be able to pay it back before, you know, it bounces or they take the money out of your account. So by the generic definition, the transaction is the same. So it comes down to, or very similar, so it comes down to making a distinction between a bank and a financial institution and the alternative financial institution. So, for example, we had to rewrite the bank or financial institution definition. The most important portion of that is that it excludes the pawn shops, payday loan businesses, and the car title loan businesses. And then we go to for example, the car title business. One of the important phrases is that it excludes a bank or financial institution. So it's trying to make that separation and distinction of where the regulation is going to apply. In doing that, there's a couple of other things that had to be adjusted in the ordinance. A couple of things in the C1 section was just there's a couple of things in here that were just clarifying some of them. There's some numbers mistakes that need to be, the numbers of the sections had to be adjusted just to remove some confusion about that. But the part of the C1 section that identifies business or financial establishments, and then there was a list of offices of financial services. I had to make adjustments in there to correspond to financial institutions and mortgage services in order to say that the payday loans can't go in a C1. So the only time you're really going to see the pawn shops and alternative financial businesses, they're permitted in the C4 zone. So I had to make sure that they could not go into a C1, a C2, or a C3. And then we created part of our Title 19 section, a little bit more information that's where the separation from similar uses comes in, the 500 feet from each one. Some design criteria. Sometimes you see a lot of pawn shops, not so much the ones that we have here, but you have seen it in other communities where they block up the windows and they make it look, well, let's say, questionable business. And so it's required that they have to keep those windows open so you can see into what's going on inside. And then talking about some signage, just making sure there's appropriate languages on the signage. And of course, parking. Everybody has to have parking. So it's a very simple, basic ordinance just to, try and give us a little bit more control over where pawn shops and alternative financial businesses can locate in the city. And I don't know if there's any questions at this point.
The 500 feet, that's a common distance and other...
Yeah, I mean...
It just seemed that was still fairly close.
It basically comes down to one per block. Really what it is. There are some communities have done a greater distance. A lot of it is trying to think what works, I think, to be, to provide appropriate separation. You know, I think when you have 2 or 3 right across the street from each other and right next to each other, I think that is really a negative impact on the community. One down the block from the other, I think, you know, it seems to have a lesser impact. It's, you know, my judgment.
At least visually.
Yeah, visually. You know, I don't want to get into, you know, when I pretend to be an attorney and I'm looking at an attorney here, I don't want to get into any restraint of trade issues. You know, I just felt that was the best number.
I do have one question, if I may. Respectfully, I ask this question. The pawn shop, what if 50% of their business is pawn shop and 50% is jewelry?
Well,
I know you told me not to ask you.
Well, right, but the 50% rule was or not 50%, in the primary use question was in the cash for gold discussion. A pawn shop definition is the action of what's going on there, because if you look at the fact that they're making a loan on the money, a loan on the object, that's what a pawn shop is doing. The personal property is, I guess, is the pawn. Cash for gold was where the primary activity is, and where sometimes jewelry stores do buy gold. That's a purchase action as opposed to a loan action. So there is a distinction there. So a pawn shop primarily is loaning money, not buying things. It doesn't mean a pawn shop can't buy gold, but we'd still call it a pawn shop. I know I just confused you.
That's right. I'm going back to Mr. White's question about 500 feet. If somebody were to come in and suggest, for example, that, well, we're a jewelry store or we're some other occupancy, but yet they're doing pawn type stuff on the side or for some large percentage,
Well,
so that they could overcome this 500-foot requirement.
I think a lot of that is going to go back to the regulations of pawn shops from a business standpoint. If someone is mixing the uses, mixing the business activity,
Right.
So you have to declare what you are as a business. Only time I see that as a problem when it comes to jewelry stores is the action of the cash for gold, because I've even seen jewelry stores say, we buy gold. You know, but that's not their primary activity. Their primary activity is to sell you rings, bracelets, diamonds, emeralds, whatever, as opposed to you're going to sell grandma's gold to get a quick buck, you know. Poor grandma.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a conflict then as far as where you state that gold include a jewelry store? A jewelry store still can buy gold?
Yeah, it does not prevent a jewelry store from doing that, but that's not, because that's not the jewelry store's primary activity. Jack, I'm just saying, anything we need to correct?
No, you're correct. That's the distinction. It's the primary activity
Okay.
component. That's why we put that in there.
Who determines primary activity?
Say that again?
Who would determine the primary activity? We're not touching that with the proposal.
Well, I mean, I think you could argue that that is a potential question, but is that, you know, how much do you get into that? But I think that's where the business license component comes into it, and that's the part where, you know, I don't mean to say I'm dumping it on another department, but that's really an issue for,
So there's, when you're getting your license for your business, a specific type of business you're doing, not just.
that's something that I think, you know, that's where it's supposed to be. It's like, how are you filling out your application? What is your activity?
Whether you're a jewelry store, whether you're a pawn shop, whether you're cash
right.
sold or whatever.
Yeah, and I think, because we've discussed this issue with the zoning administrator, is that I think he's finding the more that we do these types of regulations, the more information that the controller's office needs to be collecting in order for us to carry out the enforcement side of it. So there is another side of this that needs to be improved upon. You know, I can only address the zoning ordinance because that's what our jurisdiction is.
Now, who's in charge of making sure that the other aspects of it is being taken care of?
Well, like I said, the building commissioner is the one who has really initially brought this to my attention. And so between him, the controller, and the city attorney, I think that's where that direction needs to be. And then potentially the city council.
And tonight for this, what do you need from us?
Well, I would hope that, I mean, in kind of my presentation to you, I kind of, again, was also reading my staff report and making references to things I had in the staff report. Technically, we do have to have a public hearing, so if we could go through that motion, that step.
Any other questions from members? Pros, cons? Hearing none, we will close this period of public expression. We have a staff report.
Okay, again, the staff report, that was part of my presentation, so I'll just get down to the recommendation section. The staff has prepared regulations that establish clearer definitions of the uses, minimal separation requirements, design criteria, and parking provisions. The modifications were also related to some other provisions in the ordinance to avoid conflicts with the language. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve the text amendment to the zoning ordinance regarding the pawn shops and alternative financial businesses and forward the ordinance to the City Council with a favorable recommendation. And then if you agree with this recommendation, adopt the report as your findings of fact.
What's the pleasure in regard to the report? We have a motion to accept it as findings of fact.
So moved.
We
Second.
have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 How would you like to send it to the city council?
Make the motion to send it to city council. I'll be the sponsor of it.
You need to say favorable or unfavorable or no recommendation.
Favorable.
Thank you.
A second?
We have a motion to send it to the city council with a favorable recommendation. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 And I appreciate the fact that the councilman, anticipated my question.
Considering that the issue is on the boulevard of Fifth District, my district. I mean,
Yeah, I appreciate that you'd be willing to sponsor it, and we'll try and get it by Wednesday's deadline for first and second reading on next Monday. Okay?
Yay.
And then this one, if you, just so you know, this one also needs that notice of intent to consider. So if you're willing to go forward, whenever, I don't know how you're going to do November's meeting yet, and I know you start canceling meetings.
Yeah, it looks like November's meeting's gonna probably be on the 25th. That'll be the only one.
Okay, so if you're willing to do that, would you consider doing a notice of intent to consider for that November date?
Yeah.
Okay. I appreciate it. I just want to get it approved before the end of the year, so.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I don't have a problem with that at all.
Okay, all right, appreciate that.
All right, any correspondence? Any commissioners' comments?
No.
Comments?
I do have staff comments as soon as I find my notes. This is kind of a nice thing before I get into the other stuff. I think it's a nice thing. I was at City Hall this morning, and Andrea from the zoning office was there, and she was joking with me and said that I should take her and Don out to lunch. And I'm like, why? Why would I do that? I don't usually do that, so why would I do that is kind of the reaction. And she indicated to me something that pleased me and I'm very proud of. This happens to be literally the 10th anniversary of the approval of our current zoning ordinance. And that was something that back in 2003 and all the years before that, that was a lot of great effort. And one of the things that I'm most proud of in my time with the city of Hammond of getting this particular ordinance passed. So I got to celebrate a little bit for my 10-year anniversary of its adoption. So that's personal for me.
So when we go get a new book?
The what?
When we go get a new book?
Yeah, well, yeah, I still need to work on that part, get you all a new printed copy, and then that's one reason why I want this amendment approved here for the end of the year so I can get copies made. But
You
anyway,
get to go to lunch?
I had to take myself to lunch today.
Where did you go, Taco Bell?
No, actually, I did not go to Taco Bell. No, I went to Luby's actually, but that's another matter. Last time we were here, I talked about the Southern Shores project. There's some things that have come up regarding that. We were working on setting up that joint meeting with the city of Whiting. That did not happen because I basically, I had it set up, tentatively set up, but some things came up on our side of the fence, so to speak, and that we've asked that to be delayed. So I'm not sure exactly when we're going to bring that back up, but there's some things that are going on tangentially to this that would have effect on that document. One of the things is we had an initial meeting with Calumet College. They are looking at doing a master plan for the college, and that would be an important part. Their plan or parts of their plan would be important for us to get into the Southern Shores document. So I need to kind of hold Southern Shores off a little bit to see how that's going to play out. So that's at least one reason.
What happened to the hospital up there? Nothing?
The hospital project is not going forward. They're should be demolishing the building. I think I don't know exactly where it's at. That's in the process, but it's gone through the Board of Public Works process for the demolition, and I think actually they might be doing the environmental asbestos removal. So I think that is what's going on right now. So that should be coming down soon. Okay. As far as the November and December Plan Commission meeting, I have to ask you to consider us changing to a different date. One of the things that's also happening, and it affects one of our Plan Commission members indirectly, at least at the moment, we are looking at what we call the Conkey Street complex, however we refer to it. We're right now doing survey work so we can do a subdivision of that property. And I'm not sure exactly the timing of that. The surveyors were out today, and we were looking at things in the building and trying to figure out where the common party wall is going to be and how we're going to deal with that from a plat standpoint. But there are some things that may affect our timing, and I want to just let you know that we may have to change the November meeting maybe a little bit later or whatever in order to accommodate that. Technically, today is the filing date for the November Plan Commission meeting, and we're not ready to do that. So tentatively, I'd like you to keep open the first week of December. So if you guys can look at your calendars, get back to Shannon to see if that Monday is open for your schedules, and then if Shannon would contact the members that are not here. And I realize it's all of the holiday season and all those kinds of things that start complicating our availabilities. But I'd ask the Plan Commission for its flexibility on that matter.
So that would be December 2nd.
Okay, I don't have a calendar, but I'll.
I'm looking at the council, and they have theirs on the 9th. So the 2nd should be open here then.
It should be. So if you just get back with us, me or Shannon as soon as possible.
Shannon, the 2nd's okay with me.
Okay.
I'll bring you down tentatively, all right? December? Hanukkah is 27th. Thanksgiving Eve. Any public comment? Hearing none, we have a motion to adjourn.
Make the motion.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying